research instructions for the Multiverse were really fun, because I probably wouldn't have seen all his movies so close together.
Oh yeah, it was nice to watch them super close together. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah,
without this, but yeah, with this topic today, we're forced into that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll lead us into the official title. Welcome, gamers. Welcome, maddening fellows, to this crazy, almost a podcast episode, where today we're going to be talking about the multiverse, not the metaverse, but the multiverse, the different universes in the grand cosmic space.
I noticed that Instagram says Meta now when you load it instead of Facebook.
Metaverse is another day. We'll get Metaverse movies issue. One day. Yeah, soon all of Marvel will be in the Metaverse. But today, we basically the rundown of this episode is there's a ton of multiverse movies coming out. There's obviously Doctor Strange Madness of Multiverse that everyone's really excited for. We all saw that. There's also another A24 studio film called Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a more indie style multiverse film that we all went and saw as well. And there's just so much multiverse coolness coming out now. We kind of are going to theme this episode around that, talk about the movies, talk about multiverse stuff in general, since it's really getting up there in popularity, especially with Marvel taking it on now. And it's a big thing in their fourth chapter, I believe. Yeah. I think it's the fourth phase of their universe. So it's getting a lot of popularity. So
yeah, it's kind of cool how that has, pulled into the cultural zeitgeist, that multiverse stuff. It's not out there. It's pretty normal now. Everyone kind of understands a little bit of it.
Yeah, at least the basic concept. Yeah.
Which I gotta hand it to Marvel for, because honestly, I think they led the charge in in teaching people multiverse. Obviously, the idea has been around for a very long time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a bunch of nerds, like us, would have known about it beforehand. But to your general populace, no one considers the multiverse.
Multiverse is
the scientific theory isn't ever really discussed. But they kind of brought it in as this is now a storytelling element. It's the current element that's popular right now.
Yeah, it's very commercialized, which is nice. But yeah. If you haven't guessed, we're going to be doing huge spoiler talks for Doctor Strange. We'll be doing spoilers for Everything Everywhere All at Once as well. Also, since the multiverse for Marvel spans across a lot of different Marvel topics, just expect spoilers basically up to this most recent point for anything related to the multiverse.
Definitely Loki.
Yeah, definitely Loki
and What If
specifically. So just be warned. Well, if there's any other shows we talk about, we'll preface it. But specifically for those movies, definitely go watch them, because I liked both of them a lot. I think Doctor Strange you could see standalone, and that's actually pretty fun still, even if you have no idea what's going on. And then Everything Everywhere All at Once is also a really good multiverse film that deserves to be watched. So just very...
I was going to ask how you want to structure this. Should we give our obviously the two movies recently are Doctor Strange and Everything.
Yeah.
Do we want to give our individual reactions on each and then focus on each movie as we go, or just kind of random grab bag?
I would like to talk about each movie specifically a little while. We can start maybe by saying which one we liked more personally, maybe. And then eventually, after we talk about maybe the movie and how the multiverse affects it, we can go into comparing the two, and then just talk multiverse storytelling. I was telling Mike here before you joined on, Sean, but multiverse storytelling can be really, really tough.
It's very tough.
And it's there's some interesting discussion, I think, to be had about what do you do when you have a really complex system and you have to present it in a movie form. So so what did you get? Do you want to say our favorite of the two, on 3 or something, or do you want to just go over it? I'm trying to guess on what you guys.
We could do that on 3 and then individually go over it. I think.
Okay, so we'll do
and then argue incessantly about it if any one of us has a differing opinion.
Yeah. Just shit.
Let's be real here.
So one of them we'll just say Strange for one, and then we'll just say Everything for the other. How about that? Okay, ready?
All right.
So after 3. Okay, after 3. 1, 2, 3. Everything.
Everything. What? No.
Both. You can't say both.
Both. That's bullshit. Sean, no.
I don't think
I
have a favorite between them, because I don't to me, neither of them were like stellar.
Okay.
So I can't say like,
but you can pick a better one.
They're both very good. But that's hard because like I kind of consider them almost the same level of.
Okay, I think you're just copping out.
You're copping out.
I'm not, yeah. and I can explain my reasons.
Well, they are two different, very, very different films.
Yeah,
I think one.
Here's the thing. If I had said Doctor Strange, you guys would have said, "Oh, you're saying that only because you're a huge fan of Marvel."
No,
and if I said Everything Everywhere at Once, I wouldn't have felt satisfied with that answer because that's definitely not my favorite. But Doctor Strange isn't my favorite either. So
well.
You are correct in your assumption that we would call you out on base saying, okay, here, Marvel fanboy, but here.
I'm objective. There are things the Marvel multiverse is better with than everything, for sure. Like, absolutely. But everything as a film, I really liked it, and I liked it more than Doctor Strange.
Well, see, the problem is like there were elements of both movies that I didn't like.
Okay, so you're more hung up on like you thought both movies weren't like you thought they were good movies, but not great movies, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why I can't really pick them as a favorite. I don't think.
They're both mid. Sean says.
And usually I rate like, okay, would I see a movie again? And that choose it. But I would see both of them again.
Okay.
Because especially in a multiverse movie, there's a lot of things you miss and a lot of things you want to check out. I would see them both again. I probably watched Doctor Strange again before I watched everything.
Yeah.
Just because it's like more like Marvel's more relevant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
But I would watch everything again because I do want to see smaller things in that movie that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm almost the opposite. Even though I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't know if I'd ever watch it again. Like, I would 100% recommend it to anyone. It's like, hey, you should watch this movie. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd like, there's like this, I don't know, there's such like a, I don't know, at least for me, there's such like an impact there.
Oh,
where
really?
I'm like, I want to just leave the experience as its own individual experience and then never touch it again. I don't need to go analytical into it because I don't know, during the whole time I did it, I was fairly analytical of it, as well as like, I just really enjoyed the experience that I had with it. So I don't know if I like almost don't want to tarnish that experience. I feel like by going back and rewatching it. Whereas Doctor Strange, I'm like, okay, I want to kind of analyze this more and like go in depth. How is this going to affect the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole?
Yeah.
Do you want to focus on everything at first, then, and then we can?
Yeah. Let's start with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I do agree. Everything is like, what is it? It's not meant to be super highly analyzed. Because, I mean, it breaks. It's ridiculous. It's, like, absolutely insane.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was going to say, as far as, like, continuity errors, I mean, there's a shit ton in Everything Everywhere. Because, like,
But it doesn't matter, though.
That's the point. And that's why it works so well. Because it's like, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's ridiculous. The multiverse is insane. Which is why
I think I was drawing this conclusion almost immediately in this movie, which was that it's like Rubber, which is another
top tier movie. Yeah,
that most would agree is one of the worst movies ever. It's just, but I think it's an interesting movie, and it's very much like if the director of Rubber had infinite budget to do whatever they want, and they thought, hey, multiverse would be cool. Like this is basically what would have happened. And because Rubber's whole thing is the homage to the why not, or the no reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that applies to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it like really bathes in the fact of it is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, I keep like going back to that when I like am thinking about multiverse stuff. It's like truly like ridiculous and nonsensical. I wanted to give a short.
It was the weirdest mending a broken family story I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a short like synopsis of it too, in case everyone wants to watch the spoiler view of it. But essentially, it's just about about this mom in California, right? She's just living her life. She owns She owns a business. Washing machine store. Or whatever. Laundromat. And
those are actually very profitable, by the way.
Are they? Well, that's good. Mm-hmm. Good for them.
Yeah, they're actually really profitable.
All under the table, too.
Oh. Well, okay, so she eventually, someone from another multiverse takes possession of her husband. In this world, you don't actually physically travel to another multiverse. You kind of just transport your consciousness into that version of you in a different multiverse, which is a different. I don't think I've seen that concept in another multiverse movie before.
Doctor Strange did that too.
Well, okay, you're right.
The exact same thing.
But you can travel physically.
But he's saying like before the movie.
Before that movie.
Well, you can travel physically in the opposite one. It's just
it's not a new idea. I've definitely seen or at least read a similar idea before.
Well, that's a thing. So her husband from another universe transports into like the main movie universe and says, "Hey, we got to stop this person. They suck." And so this lady goes through like, you know, the world starts ending, whatever. The lady begins to learn how to multiverse hop. She's able to like look at different realities of herself, and learn these new abilities and attack the conflict. But it's also like this, like you said, Mike, kind of like a family story.
That was
Sean,
yeah, mending a broken family.
The mending of a broken family, where it's like I think the woman's really
that's the core of the movie. That's like the core.
It's like a family drama. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think it was a great allegory for depression.
It is.
And like that, because I mean, I can 100%, like, I'm not going to lie. I teared up to this movie because I 100% relate to a lot of the shit that happens. And like, it uses a lot of that visual metaphor for things. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I understand where this story is going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's, go ahead, Sean.
Well, I mean, I feel like your synopsis was fairly spoilerish, Colton, in the sense that like it's a lot of the plot. So I'm gonna keep going with that and say the moment the evil person, I don't even remember the name, walked on screen, I'm like, that's the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right away, I guessed it.
Okay, I don't think I.
They revealed it pretty soon after, maybe like 15 minutes later.
Yeah,
but
like.
As soon like as they were on screen, like that?
You're
hooded,
like
I'm like, that's
You're
the
like,
daughter.
Of course it is. It's definitely like, who else would it be? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. So it's, yeah. That's I don't know if I want to go anymore. It's hard for me to just like recap that whole story because it's just insane.
Yeah. I mean,
it is.
I liked the story. I thought it was really good in the sense that like it kept me guessing for the most part. But what drew me out of it in a way, I think like what I went in expecting and what I got were a little disjointed, and that's why it's not as high for me. Like I went in expecting like a like not necessarily gritty, but like a take on the multiverse that was going to be different.
Okay.
And
more
like
grounded,
revolutionary, you know?
Oh, and it was just not.
And what I got was ridiculousness, essentially.
Yeah.
And I like that, you know, but it just because I went into it expecting something different, which is why I'd watch this movie again. I'd watch it with the knowledge that it's going to be silly and ridiculous and then laugh about it. But there was definitely moments in the movie that took me out of it. I'm like, okay, all right, we're getting real here. And then they're like, there's a bagel. I'm like,
everything bagel. Yeah, that is one thing that didn't hit right for me. I'm like, well, did they have to just meme that whole plot point? Like, I don't know if they needed to make that a whole meme.
Why the fuck not, though, bro?
Exactly. So, like, why not? That's the whole point.
I'm on the opposite.
Again, and that's the point.
That is the point.
It was my expectation that was different from what I got.
Yeah.
See, and that's why I'm glad, because Colton, you said basically before we watched it, the only like spoiler-esque thing. Like, I watched no trailers for this because I wanted to go in pure and blind.
Good decision. Yep.
And the only thing you said was like, just, it's crazy, just expect that. And I was like, all right, cool, because I'm 100% down for that shit as long and there was no whiplash for me. Honestly, I was so immersed in that, like I felt almost at some points like out of body, like where I'm like I'm so involved in the movie that like I'm
There were some weird moments that were like, what is happening right now? The first ending almost got me. I was about to get pissed. I was like, I have not been here that long.
Yeah, they faked you out, and like, I was about to kind of get mad. I'm like, okay, come on, this isn't some artsy ending. That's just a shit ending.
But then you read the who did it, right? So about halfway
credits
through the entire, or maybe 2/3 away through the entire movie, they do this is for any audience members. They do essentially a fake ending where they're like, the character's name is the director and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so at first you're like, wait, what? And then you're like, you read into it and you're like, okay, this is just bullshit. And then they changed multiverses essentially at that point. And that was a fun cutout. But I don't know, I really enjoyed too the like how they switched between toward the ending where it's just chaotic, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember the first fight scene between Joy, the daughter, and her mom and people?
Yep.
And she literally, like, she like turns the guy's batons into dildos and just beats him up with a freaking dildo.
Yeah.
It was so, like, the randomness that was going on. I'm just thinking, what
it just
is
happening? Like, encapsulates.
A lot of it, I was just watching, experience. Like, because there's no way I can analyze anything that's what's happening because it's impossible.
Yep. The raccoon
was funny.
Like, what's going on?
I loved how many references there were to other things in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of the the martial arts stance are from famous movies. Many things.
With Michelle Yeoh, who is the main character, right? She literally played there's a literally reference to was it
Crouching Tiger,
Dragon? Crouching
Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I think, something like
that. There's a reference to that, like, on a couple of those things. Obviously, she references herself. There's literally photos of herself when she's younger.
Yeah, she is a martial artist. Yeah.
As her, like, movie star younger self
which
in the movie.
Makes sense because I didn't recognize her, honestly, when the movie was going. But then I sort of recognized when she was in her actress era. And I'm like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But now you say that it's the actual actor, it makes sense.
Yeah, they literally snap like jump cut between like pictures of her when she was like in the 2000s, like when she was younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was kind of cool.
I gotta say,
what about the butt plug fight?
That's the big one. It's like that was
pretty funny too.
Unbelievable. I'm like the whole time. My jaw's
when the dude jumps over, with
dude,
no pants.
No, because I saw when I looked at those things before, I'm like, okay, this is one Chekhov's gun too. They 100% look like a butt plug.
Yeah,
I'm like, shit's gonna happen this, and then when the guy starts like unzipping his pants, because for audience members who aren't aware, to change between multiverses or like to change your consciousness, like shift your consciousness, you have to do something like completely out of the ordinary. So like. One of them was to eat a stick of
chapstick,
chewing or
chapstick,
yeah,
or like eat or chew on a to like.
Well, they had to do a specific thing though, didn't they?
Correct. To create the connection.
Yeah.
But one of them was for the people to basically stick what looks like a trophy that looks like a butt plug and stick it up their ass.
Yeah.
And they're like,
they're fighting.
What the fuck?
Yeah, like Michelle's just trying to keep the butt plug away from them. He's just trying to grab the butt plug and stick it up his ass.
Yep.
And there's a whole
some of the scenes like that
from that
were funny, but at the same time for me were like, this is very out there, like
that's
the beauty of it though. Dude, it threw my emotions because you'd also have like an emotional moment like right after that, and also like my emotions were like swinging back and forth the entire episode.
Yeah,
because they're like there's shit like for me at least that hit really hard. And I'm like not gonna lie, I teared up a bit, and like I wasn't like 100% balling, but there was some moments like I'm like fuck, I understand this moment.
There was a moment I teared up a little bit, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
but yeah. And then they swing it back to like just ridiculous.
Yeah,
shit.
they really play with you. I love Sean. You said you love the rocks, and I love those rocks as well.
The rocks
that was such a good,
hilarious. When they went to the rocks, I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. And like the whole scene in silence, but just text was hilarious. Yeah. And then when the thing turns around and it's the googly eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really funny. But what I noticed actually, I'm pretty sure that whole scene. Those were all CG rocks. It's a CG scene.
Oh, really?
100%. Because, you can't get googly eyes. There was a specific thing about the googly eyes when it turned that to me said that's CG.
Huh.
And it's not a hard shot to do in CG either.
Right.
So I think that they just did the whole thing in CG.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can't wait to see VFX artists react to this show.
Yeah.
That'd
It'll be
really
very interesting.
The costume design was insane. I mean, the costume department.
Yeah, they went all out.
All right, so we need about 27 different costumes for this next scene.
Yeah.
Like, how long is the scene? About 3 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did that flash that like when she was like going through all the multiverse stuff too. They were flashing like 100 different things. It's wild.
That's what I was thinking when that was happening. I'm like, oh my God, that's so many different scenes.
Yeah. The one thing that didn't land for me entirely, but I think was like it had like a decent like not emotional impact, but the hot dog finger thing, like that was that was a little weird. That was like
really weird.
I've not talked to anyone that was like, yeah, that was needed, and I'm just like,
honestly, that's my only gripe with it, and like I'm like it's a little that took me out of it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
but. Anything besides that, I mean, it was funny mostly due to the fact that they had an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, like the monkeys, killing each other.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
With the same music and everything. I was like, okay, I was laughing audibly at that.
Yeah.
But like,
I bet everyone in the theater really appreciated that. But.
I definitely was like disturbed by the hot dog fingers.
Oh yeah, that was especially when they put the mustard and ketchup in the mouth.
I was like definitely like not feeling well,
it was pretty gross, but
that was, and I mean, in one hand you can say, wow, congratulations to a movie to make you feel something like that during the movie.
Yeah.
On the other hand though, it's like, I don't want to experience that.
Yeah. Well, to me it was like at the end when Michelle, whatever the mother's name was, they were having this like big monologue, and she's like, yeah, you could find meaning in any universe, even a stupid universe with hot dog fingers. And I was like, technically you're right, that is like a useless universe, but like the ability to find like some sort of meaning in that is touching. Well, I mean, that's
the theme of the show, right? Is essentially it's an antithesis to like the idea like nihilism, right?
Yeah.
Like essentially,
yep.
Everything, in an infinite multiverse, nothing has meaning, right? And that's what, Joy, that's why she went on like essentially a rampage to destroy everything, because to her, everything was meaningless and it was just infinite suffering. Whereas then Michelle Yeoh character basically flipped the script. It's like, no, there's, so many experiences, so many joyful moments that you can actually, experience across the multiverse. There's
and you can improve
meaning everywhere,
and you can improve people's lives as well, which is how she, at the end, before she let her daughter go in the bagel, I think she was using that. She was trying to like.
I just love that line. Before she let her daughter go into the everything bagel.
They could have called it anything else, and it would have helped. Like.
Yeah,
I love like she was so serious when they announced the bagel. She's like, it's an everything bagel, like everything, and I'm like, okay.
Are you kidding? I love that mostly because. So at that moment, I knew they would flip the script on the nihilism bit, because like the whole thing was like, at that moment I knew like Michelle Yeoh's character would basically go through the process of basically saying, all right, everything has meaning, right? Because it's not, her daughter sees it as just a black hole, and it's like, no, it's an everything bagel. There's literally every possibility out there.
Yeah.
And so
it's a good metaphor.
Well then, but it's just weird though, because why Joy should have called it like a black hole rather than a bagel if she was trying to find like
it's allegory, dude.
Yeah,
don't think about it too much. It's art.
It's art.
But art is is in the eye of the beholder. All right, and what matters is my opinion.
Yeah. See, actually. So that whole thing is what actually made me kind of emotional about it. One, because of the allegories to depression, but also we talked about this, or at least I know I did. We talked about it a bit early on an earlier episode of this podcast, where about abilities and superpowers, and one of them was that I talked about was literally the ability to basically parallel process your brain across all of the realities.
Yeah, it's basically this movie.
Right?
Yeah,
which cool. Yeah, exactly right. And it was really cool because they came to the same conclusion that I did after that thought process, at least when I didn't mention this in the specific podcast because I thought it'd be a little too deep down the rabbit hole there. But now that we're here, that was basically my conclusion of it. That whole thought process of if you can experience infinite, parallel universes, it would be one, being able to acquire a bunch of abilities, but also the ability to essentially, create meaning throughout all of those universes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah.
You gotta have.
I mean, it's how she's putting herself into there, so she's able to make changes instead of just absorbing skills or whatnot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was definitely in this movie a lot of like oof moments where.
What do you mean?
Like when she experiences the reality where she's a superstar, you know, and then she gets back to her husband and she's like, you know, my life would have been amazing without you.
Yeah, I was like,
oh, that hurt.
That hurt a lot.
I'm like, oof, that hurt.
And when the husband actually, he had a kind of a decent like arc too, where the big one, he was like, my kindness isn't naiveness, it's a choice. That was like her turning point, I think, because Michelle was kind of starting to be nihilistic. She started acting out randomly when I think she got that power to parallel process her consciousness in the universes. But
when she started experiencing everything.
Yeah, she started to kind of just be
everything
like,
everywhere all at once.
Yeah, she started to like act out because nothing matters, right? But then I think that's the turning point when her husband was like, my kindness is a choice, not being naive, because
her husband in the fantasy universe when she's a superstar.
Yes, yeah, and then she's like, she has a big revelation. But I thought that was cool. Like that was I don't know, like the guy, he does, to me, it was like the guy does seem kind of like naive and like a twit sometimes, but he's
just a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah. He's just a nice guy, and he doesn't have to be. He's like totally aware that he, I don't know, is maybe brushing things off, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I liked all the characters a lot. It was very wacky.
Yeah, same.
It's not a family movie. Neither is Doctor Strange, to be completely honest, as I thought it was going to be. But
I want to talk about that when we get to Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange was.
We can start transitioning because we've been talking about everything for 25 plus minutes, so we can transition to Doctor Strange, I think.
Let me say then about Doctor Strange. Honestly, I think this is the first Marvel movie that's been brutal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nothing's
touched. That was my first thought too.
Even when they were fighting Thanos and like all that stuff, they were just taking punches. You know, not too bad.
Like
In this movie, I was like, how did they get this in PG-13 rating?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's even going on?
There was especially when she took down the Illuminati. I'm like, oh my god, there was some brutal moments.
That was giving me some like Invincible vibes. I was like, dude, she's just like ripping through these people, and there's
I mean, it wasn't gory, but it was just like everything there was brutal. Like, I mean, they
barely escaped the gore. You know,
they barely
showed his eyes kind of bled and his ears bled for the fork dude. Captain Marvel,
fork dude.
I don't know what his name is.
Yeah.
The Captain Marvel, the shield had a bunch of blood on it.
Yeah, like they implied it. Yeah, as best as they could.
Definitely implied it. Like she like slid.
Yeah, and they zoomed in really close on her. But let's start from the beginning here.
Yep, sure.
So
general impressions of Doctor Strange then.
So for me, I gotta say I was I came out of it a lot happier than I was expecting to come out of it. More brutal. I was expecting a lot more multiverse, but it was not as multiverse traversing as what I was thinking it was going to be.
They had like one scene.
I loved the director, Sam Raimi, is that his name? Sam Raimi, his influence on the movie, I think, was really there, and I liked his influence and the tone.
I could tell it was a different Marvel movie than previous.
I loved the difference in tone, because sometimes superhero movies and Marvel movies can kind of blend together, and I thought this one was so much different, and I really, really enjoyed and appreciated the personal touch they were able to bring to it.
And this is the first Marvel movie that really brought, so they're like, this is the first one in theaters really since like pandemic, right? I mean, they have Black Widow, but I'm gonna be honest, Black Widow I did not really
wasn't as good.
But this is like
it still counts as a Marvel movie though from the universe.
But I don't know. I felt like, I mean, I think they filmed everything beforehand, before pandemic stuff, and they just released it. But I felt like the first. Okay, this is Marvel's back. We're starting like the new.
It's definitely the first continuation. Well, actually, I think Spider-Man was, but But yeah.
Oh, sorry, No Way Home came out, but I totally forgot.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that No Way Home. I forgot about No Way Home because that was a great movie.
That's one of my favorite movies for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I had.
But
go ahead, Sean. I won't stop you.
I was just gonna say, like, I really enjoyed the Doctor Strange movie, but there were a lot of small things I didn't like about it, mainly from a filming perspective.
Okay.
Not necessarily story, but there was a lot of small things that I just didn't quite like. That just jarred me just a little bit. I'm like, this doesn't make sense here,
Yeah. What do you?
I'm trying to remember what those small things were, but like
like costume design or like CG stuff or what?
It'll probably come to me as we discuss this more. But like, what I did like though is how well they kept certain things under wraps.
Oh yeah,
which they did. It's good for No Way Home as well. But like,
we can talk about that stuff later.
When Captain Carter came on, I'm like, heck yeah, I know that because this is episode 1 of What If.
Yeah, yep. It's like a callback to that. Fantastic.
I don't know if you had seen that when you Colton.
I did a recap of What If, so I knew Captain Carter was was big part of that in a way. Yeah,
and it was great to see her back. I really like
that.
Was it Haley Atwell? I think that's her name.
It was she'd be a cool character to not kill off in like 10 seconds one day.
Yeah,
in live action.
Right. And another multiverse, maybe she lives alone.
Yeah, exactly.
The Fantastic Four guy, and then Professor X.
Yeah,
I'm like, whoa! I had no idea they were going to be in that.
Though that was one thing I did not expect was during the trailers, I did watch the trailers for that, and I heard Patrick Stewart's voice. I'm like, okay, Professor X is going to be here.
Okay, I had no idea.
Jim Halpert being No, yeah.
Well, he was Shazam. He's already been cast as Shazam.
Is John Krasinski?
He's not Shazam.
Who's Shazam?
Shazam is some other guy.
I don't think so.
I didn't think
they already
Shazam
have done a
was.
Shazam movie.
They've already done a Shazam movie.
Yeah.
Isn't
it Zachary Levi?
I'm pretty sure that was the guy.
No, it wasn't.
No, Zachary Levi.
Who was
it then? Not the guy.
Zachary Levi is Shazam guy.
Okay, yeah.
I can see.
They look very similar.
I can see the resemblance.
Everyone wanted John Krasinski and Emily Blunt to be Mr. Incredible and Sue Storm, right? And that was like
Mr.
the fan
Elastic?
thing. And I don't know if you've ever seen that. And then John Krasinski is him, so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
It was cool to see it, but I didn't. I guess I didn't know the significance of it.
Yeah, because everyone was like there's a lot of fan art of him being cast as Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, I think it's
Mr. Incredible. I mean, Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic. Yeah.
Mr. Incredible, very different.
He looks the part. I was excited to see him. I had no idea in any way he was going to be cast, but then of course all the kids like, oh cool, it's Jim, and then he gets ripped apart again immediately.
Well, that was a brutal death right there too. Jesus.
Yeah,
I like the small things too. Like, and we talked this before, but within Multiverse movies, you need to know a lot going into it to be able to make all the connections. Like in that universe where the Illuminati was there, you're like, oh, the Ultron plan worked. They never tell you that,
right?
But by seeing the robots there, you're like, oh, okay, so Ultron worked in this universe. And it makes sense.
But at the same time, is Tony Stark alive?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
I thought that was gonna be the last guy. I thought they were gonna have Iron Man there.
Oh,
I thought Smartest Man.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God, is Tony going to be alive? Because that would have been a great moment to have Doctor Strange there, because then he's the one who essentially killed Tony Stark. So that would have been a really good plot moment. But unfortunately, they did not.
Yeah.
But I think that's more a Robert Downey Jr. thing.
He didn't want to probably be in it. You're right. That's probably the politics
but you're
there.
Right. It was cool to see Ultron. And yeah, it was great to see Mr. Fantastic. I'm so glad that Jim got cast as Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. The whole the Wanda was really good too. I liked her arc. I liked her being the villain.
I thought I thought she was going to be the not the villain. I thought she was going to help him.
Yeah,
all the trailers like alluded to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I only saw the first trailer, but I thought she was going to help, not be the villain. That was cool.
And I was really happy they didn't cop out and just make Doctor Strange and Wanda team up at the end or something to fight this other thing. They kept it strong, and they fought until the very end, and they like held to that vision, to where she dies, quote unquote.
Also,
I'm not sure if
do you
died.
think she's really dead though?
I don't know. They'll figure it out later, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's a contract thing.
I don't know.
The one thing that also blew me away too was Professor X versus Wanda, because I was like,
that was good.
I was like, Professor X, right?
Good, yeah.
We had like this history of him being just an insanely strong mind guy, right? That's all he is. His mind is extremely powerful, and he's versing Wanda Maximoff, and you're like, what is going to, when that happened, when he went into her mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this moment. And I was like, holy shit, he got brutalized.
Yeah.
Every death was brutal.
I love how she,
and then, what was the guy's name? It's like, he was the Inhuman, the guy who basically spoke really loud.
The fork guy?
Yeah, the fork guy.
Fork guy. I
don't know his
I
name.
never watched Inhumans.
I've never heard of this guy before, but obviously he's very powerful.
Yeah. But yeah, him oh my god, and then all of a sudden it just blows up inside of his like she closes his mouth.
It was such a
exactly.
It was such a good like anime moment. John Krasinski's like, this guy can take you out with a whisper of his voice. You're no match for him. And Wanda just like OP protagonist like, nope, he's dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, how do you fight somebody that can rewrite reality? It's pretty crazy.
I love how they didn't nerf her.
Really.
Because she is canonically supposed to be extremely, extremely powerful, right?
Well, I don't know. I felt like during the fight on Kamar-Taj, they nerfed her because she was basically just firing lasers. And I'm like, okay, cool. But Wanda can like do some like crazy shit.
This brings back a point to me that I was thinking about, is that and I remember a specific moment. It's very hard to portray power levels in real life when you have lasers and mystical powers.
Specifically lasers?
And this movie, I did not think this movie did not do a good job of showing that. You know, like,
agreed.
Yes, Wanda's very powerful, but you're not really getting how powerful she is.
Yeah.
Because they can't convey it well enough.
Right.
And then there was the sequence which I really didn't like, which was when Doctor Strange was fighting evil Doctor Strange.
Oh, with
musical notes.
Yeah.
See, I love that moment because it was all based on the music. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
I didn't like that at all because there's no precedence that was set to do that, and it's so weird when we know how those sorcerers fight. And they're using musical notes for some reason. Yeah. Because it's there. And then you needed to strum the harp to make a note. It was really weird. Yeah. And that really threw me off.
I think, like, stylistically...
It was cool. Yeah. But stylistically, it was cool. But, like...
Yeah, practically
it didn't make sense.
Like, Doctor Strange, I mean, he can do some pretty crazy shit to reality to, like, bend and... Like, I thought when he trapped Wanda in that mirror thing and, like, kind of spiked her.
That was really good.
I think, like, there's so many... I don't know Doctor Strange at all. I don't know his powers. But I do remember that one time when he was fighting, like, Thanos in Infinity War. He had, like, all those arms around him and stuff. I was like...
Yeah, where was all that?
He's got a lot... Doesn't he have, like, a huge, diverse arsenal of
and
things?
He could, like, duplicate himself around.
Like, I was expecting him, since I'm watching Hunter x Hunter, to do this, like, whole Killua thing where he, like, can bend himself around... and like surround his opponent with like all visions of himself.
Yeah,
like
shadow clones.
Yeah,
I just wish the music would have been like a one and done thing, but instead it was the entire fight.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because it was kind of cool, but it is just a laser, and it's like they can do.
Yeah.
They can.
Now, what do you think about
that fight? Just did not seem very powerful to me. It felt very. I didn't understand who was winning. There was no reason behind any of these moves. It was just like...
It was like, oh, it's there, and this will be
stuff
cool.
was happening.
Yeah.
They added things and then exploded.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think about Zambi Doctor Strange?
I really wish his cape would have been the cape from the What If episode. When he, like, forged it out of the souls, you know?
Is that the same?
That would have been really cool. But it would have been a good homage instead of this, like, weird CG thing.
Is that the same Doctor Strange from What If?
No, it would have been different, but it would have been a cool like, aha.
It's like a callback to it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if they had Captain Carter, why not have the cloak of?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Speaking of homages with Captain Carter,
I didn't mind the zombie though. I will say to finish your point, Michael. I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. But then the whole Souls of the Damned thing, I'm like, you're introducing new plot lines.
Yeah.
Into the movie, and that was confusing. I'm like, okay, I need to reconcile myself that hell is an actual place and there are souls of the damned that come after you.
Yeah.
I got to get my head around that before the fight continues. Right. And you don't have a lot of time and they don't have a lot of explanation. So that was a bit jarring.
I was really interested to like, so there's someone like keeping track and there are rules like you can't do that. Like I was really interested in learning more about it. But yeah, I mean, it kind of like, then Strange's his lover, not his lover, but whatever, the girl that he likes, she's just like, just take control, you can do it. He's like, yeah, I can do it. And they had to really rush that scene.
I thought it was gonna be a TVA shit. When I saw really? He's like, I have an idea, I thought it was gonna be like he's gonna use the TVA and like basically get like fuck with the TVA and then get to his multiverse that way.
Well, I have thoughts on that as well when we get to the
further expanded multiverse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But back to the point I did want to make, there's something that popped into my head is, so Sam Raimi, right? Directed Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, right?
Yeah.
And Spider-Man 3.
I think so, yeah, the whole trilogy.
Or was he half and half on Spider-Man 3? But yeah, he did Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man. That Captain Carter, 100% an homage to Goblin. Because remember in the original Spider-Man when he gets stabbed with the glider?
Yeah, in the original.
It's literally the same camera angles as
is it really?
Yep. It's literally like even with like obviously there's there would be a wall in the original Spider-Man, right, where the glider comes through and like stabs him, right? But the same exact camera angles as the original Spider-Man, which I thought was a really cool homage because it's like,
it's a good catch.
Haley Atwell's face just like, oh shit.
Yeah. Dude, I felt like sick to my stomach when she got cut in half. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what a good person to get just cut in half. Sucked.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was tough.
The
whole scene was tough.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like, you guys think about like the Grudge reference with like them running through the tunnels and stuff? Like the kind of the horror movie-esque.
I don't know if I saw The Grudge. I don't think I've seen The Grudge, but I did catch the Exorcist reference. When she came out of the portal and was like,
yeah.
I like the horror vibe to the film. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, way darker and way scarier than any other Marvel film.
Yeah, Wanda is terrifying. I mean, if she's after you, that's not good. I mean, so I think it's very justified.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is one that would give actual, like, if you take your 6-year-old, they're
gonna have some, I was gonna say, if
when I got up to leave the theater, there was a lot of like smaller kids there. I'm like,
I'm like, dude, because imagine, I don't know, you watched Infinity War, wasn't it was just punches, and Endgame was just like punches and stuff. Then you take your kids to this and it's like, oh dear.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yeah, you watch someone's corpse literally turn into like charcoal.
Did you see this
as you stare in their eyes
where they killed Strange in the alternate universe with the voice guy, with the fork dude?
Yeah.
And there was a picture. There was in the background, Thanos was stabbed through with his head cut off.
Oh, I didn't see that.
With his sword. Yeah,
really?
Did you see that?
Oh,
it's
I
like
didn't.
With his sword broken through. He was like fully on, like cut, like pretty brutal, pretty graphic.
There's also
off the side. Wow.
When the bad Strange dies too, that's pretty brutal. He like falls into a gate or something.
Oh yeah, that surprised me too.
You saw the whole thing. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the brutality. It was a nice change of pace.
I thought it was a really good change of pace. Yeah. Honestly, like a lot of Marvel movies have, like, I think Quarter Digital did a Winter Soldier but rated R.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's a lot of moments in a lot of these movies, especially superhuman movies, where like Captain America punches a dude, like his chest would be caved in, or like throws the shield at somebody. That guy's chopped in half.
It's not bopping off his head. That thing's going through his head and then ricocheting off the wall to get back to him.
And through the next guy's head and then ricocheting. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of scenes which would have been brutal, but they didn't do that.
Right.
But in this movie, I don't know how they got some of that past the filter.
I don't know how they didn't rate
same.
that R. I thought that had to have been so close. Like, to me, I don't know if they were like, like getting the guys in. Is that an R scene? Okay, lighten it up a little bit.
There was less cursing, which then maybe they got through, because I forget how it stacks up, but you can have X amount of this and X amount of this, and they can bleed over.
Yeah,
I see in the rating rules, and there's less cursing. Because normally
you get
once,
like, and that was it.
Yeah,
and Doctor Strange was like, distorted word of his, and then that was kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
They get like 5 or 10 words, and then it's like, or something like that. I don't know.
Okay,
but there is a tally rating system.
Yeah.
Now, what would you give each of these movies, like percent wise or score wise, like out of 10 or out of 100 wise? Like, what would you give each of these movies?
I would give Doctor Strange a 7.5, and I think I'd give everything like an 8 or an 8.5.
I think they're both solid 8s for me. Maybe, both solid 8s.
I'd probably give Multiverse of Madness probably an 8, and then I'd probably say a 9.5 for the other one.
Nice.
I don't know if... See, here's the thing, like, Everything, Everywhere, like, it's a great movie, but I don't know if it's, like, in my top 5 or top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe my top... it may be my top 10.
That's more of a personal connection.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing I want to talk about before we start getting outside of the movies is I just want to see, what are the gripes? We talked really positively about Doctor Strange. Were there any more gripes you guys had? The only thing I had...
I think I talked a lot of gripes.
There was a lot of, like, in my opinion, like, kind of typical Marvel, maybe not Marvel specifically, but they're like movie cop-outs. Like, America is like, I can't control my power. Doctor Strange is like, you can do it.
But you can.
And America's
absolutely.
like, oh yeah, I can. And it just starts like, she then has control of her power. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
There's a couple,
there was no training sequence,
Yeah. And then like when Wong, I don't know why this triggered me. Wong fell off the mountain, right? And then it's shown that he's on this one tiny little piece of the mountain.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll throw you
with
the
his
bone.
with his grapple is like
It's
so
when he fell though, that was a really good fall sequence.
It was a good fall sequence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was like 3 attempts to save himself, and they didn't work.
He just failed.
Normally they just kick you off and you're gone, but he like went through his whole repertoire and then fell.
Yeah,
like that was
the
really
sequence
good.
was good. I was just like, okay, he's in the base.
Well, America's character is just one that was never in the trailers. Like they didn't really show her at all.
Right.
2, I didn't really like her. Like I think the actress did a decent job, but I don't know. It's just like it wasn't. Yeah. I'm like,
The character felt a bit off, but
yeah.
At the same time, I give that one a slight pass because if you're someone like as a small child, you disappear into a multiverse, and now you're spent more than half your existing life traveling between 73 different universes.
Yeah.
You're going to be a bit weird, you know, and not totally normal. So I kind of give that a little bit of a pass because of it. It's a good way of explaining it away for me.
Mm-hmm.
But she is a bit of a weird character.
Yeah. She should be very important down the line. I mean, if she's the only one who has her power. So
yeah, supposedly.
Yeah.
Only one that can travel between universes. Man, the TVA must be really hunting for her.
This is something I was going to be like, I'm surprised she hasn't ticked off the TVA, but if she's only going into multiverses and not altering the timeline in a way that they need to get rid of her, then she'd technically be okay.
Which, I want to cycle, unless you had a final thought, Michael.
Nope.
I want to cycle into Loki because...
Okay, so
Michael, you really should have watched this. We're going to be hard to spoil this thing.
We're expanding.
It's fine. I am recapped on this. So
okay, so we're going into the whole Marvel multiverse, the whole thing, the whole of it.
Yeah,
I really would have liked to see a small reference to the TVA somewhere in Doctor Strange, because there were many opportunities where you could have seen like a TVA agent in the background. Maybe there is. If I go back and watch, that'd be so cool. But like, this is where it gets interesting because multiverse, like you were saying, Colton, still exists within the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And the TVA governs the timeline, not the multiverses.
Yes.
But because of that and what they've said canonically, it means everything that happened in Doctor Strange is supposed to happen.
Well, here's okay.
Unless this is before or after they break the universe. But even if that happened, it only happened momentarily because TVA is still under control again.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little muddy, and we don't know where the TVA is at. And I think you start to run into paradoxes into which if it's like hard because like I'll talk about this now. I think with like some of these, like if you go too in depth of trying to explain how to like all the paradoxes and trying to get rid of all your plot holes in the Marvel universe, people will think it's like too boring and it's too slow and it's too confusing. Yeah. But so you have to like pick your battles on what to and what to not explain and just let the fan base explain. I think it gets a little murky because you could say that maybe like the TVA collapses and that they're not pluming universes or whatever, and that this takes place after that time of when the TVA starts to like not be a thing. Or after, so the girl, Loki, kills the, whatever.
But that was only momentarily, like, as far as TVA timeline goes, because then immediately he comes back, which we haven't talked about the last episode of Loki. He immediately comes back, and it's under new ownership. Yeah. And I'm assuming pruning.
Yeah. So, okay.
Kang the Conqueror?
Well, Kang the Conqueror. Yeah. So, here's the thing. Okay, want me to go over I did a lot of research. It's not all fully there, but do you want me to go over like what I think the timeline, what the TVA's true goal was over the Marvel universe?
Go for it, man.
How'd you learn this?
So I'm throwing Marvel a couple bones because they don't go into this explicitly. However, the explanation for the TVA that doesn't break like the rest of the movies and universes that I've been able to come up with and research is, remember Kang, right? He set the TVA to make sure that versions of himself in the future, if he learns in the future how to travel multiverses, his reasoning is, okay, if one of me learns how to travel multiverses, there's an infinite amount of me that have also figured out how to travel multiverses. One of them,
that's what did happen.
Yeah, one of them is bad, and they start to take over the multiverse. So, yeah, in my opinion, Kang, it's not Kang, right? It's anyone who can travel multiverses will have that happen to them, right? Doesn't matter if anyone learns how to travel through a multiverse. There's an infinite number of them. One of them is going to be bad, and one of them is going to be powerful and try to like start this war.
Yeah. Is that totally true though? Because what America said in the movie is that she doesn't dream, and like what we learned through
there's
that
only
is,
one of her.
There's only one of her in existence. Okay, so maybe she doesn't have multiversal clones.
That's how it's supposed to be. I mean, that kind of breaks because if there's infinite possibility for everything, then yes, there should be another version of her somewhere.
But are you pulling in like modern, like true multiverse theory, like physical?
I'm just pulling in.
No, they say that in the movies.
Okay. Like there's infinite possibilities, and Marvel doesn't mean America Chavez is meant to be the one and only. So like she's not. Mm-hmm. We just have to assume there's actually not a variation of her anywhere. But my thing was, Kang is basically the TVA wouldn't plume essentially a universe as long as there wasn't someone that would learn how to plume, whatever.
They're saying like plume with an L.
Is it prune?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's prune.
Okay. Why did I think it was plume? That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, like you prune a plant, you know.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That actually makes a lot more sense.
Did you think it this whole time?
I was like, whatever.
Coldman's watching at 2 times speed, so it's like,
yeah. You know. Anyways, they don't need to prune a multiverse as long as someone doesn't learn how to multiverse jump or whatever. Then they theoretically don't need to prune that multiverse, even if like it goes off this sacred timeline that the Avengers exist in. Like if if an asteroid kills everyone on Earth before the Avengers exist, they don't need to prune that because no one on Earth is going to learn how to multiverse jump. so they don't need to prune that.
But they would, because then life doesn't develop, and that's not part of the
it's not. It's
timeline.
not. Life isn't just on Earth, though. There's life everywhere.
True, but according to the sacred timeline, it needs to exist on Earth because that's where the Avengers are.
But it doesn't, because. But why? The Avengers aren't the only equation. Like, it can't. It should. To me, if there's no reason for them to hold a single timeline, like a single bit of timeline, it shouldn't have to be that way. It should only be stopping multiversal travel.
I think you're right. But, like, according to Loki, at least, there's a predetermined path that should happen.
Yeah.
And if you can take the glowing, path to be one thing, and then you see the little lines splitting off.
Yeah. And then
there's a lot of lines within a boundary.
Yeah.
But if you get outside of the boundary, that's when you get pruned. Now, I imagine, the timelines exist very close to one another in the sacred timeline. Splitting out is when you get all the possibilities.
Yeah, that's kind of what
Isn't that what happened at the end of Loki? Is that basically everything started splitting and it just went freaking haywire? Because all the timelines just started going off in every direction.
Yeah, because there's technically there's
maybe there's something what Colton says, because in Doctor Strange, I mean, they go to a multiverse with paint where everyone's made out of paint. That that seems really stupid. I mean, to exist as part of a grand tapestry.
Yeah,
but if nobody develops multiversal travel in that one, then sure, whatever.
Then it's whatever. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, I'm like assuming that Marvel, like I'm it's like portrayed as a singular boundary timeline, and that, the way we're thinking of it, explaining it right now, it's not the best analogy to it, but I'm like saying this is what Marvel actually means, because that's what seems to make the most sense. In either way, I think there is like a boundary, though. It's not just one thing has to happen. Because Loki can exist as a woman, as long as Loki doesn't start to become like a good guy. If Loki isn't, doesn't have the typical character traits that he does have, they need to plume that universe, because somehow that leads to prune. That somehow leads to Kang the Conqueror being a thing. Now, I mean, it just starts to get icky, because there's times where multiversal travel exists, and technically, if one person can multiverse travel, that means there's an infinite amount of people that can do it, and one of them is like Thanos that learns how to do it. Like, that version is just a Thanos version. And he can take over the universe.
Yeah. I feel like this multiverse of madness shit happens after Loki. Like, I feel like this happens when the whole timelines are like just going absolutely fucking everywhere.
That was kind of my
Kang's whole thing is like, it doesn't actually matter. Yeah. TVA doesn't have to really have a job, because they can do it.
And I think the TVA...
We won't know that until season 2 comes out of Loki.
Like the TVA...
or whenever the TVA comes back.
The new Kang, the Conqueror, if it's actually like a bad Kang that comes in, he might have a completely different agenda to pruning stuff. We don't know. Even though like time doesn't really... Like, I feel like in multiversal travel, time doesn't actually exist, right? That's another kind of paradox that we just kind of have to ignore, because technically there's like the whole thing with Wanda, like she destroyed the book, right? The book that lets her dream hop
in all
universes. But like technically the book's
a bit of a stretch to me.
It is. That's just them saying, okay, Wanda in another multiverse can't start taking over other multiverses because there's a bad version of her that wants to do that. That's like to me, it's like their plot saving device. Even though in the 1700s, honestly, the book existed, and there should have been another variant trying to do the same thing, but we will not jump into that paradox.
The way they portray the multiverse in Loki is probably my favorite way of working with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Everything Everywhere All at Once, I also really liked as far as how they portrayed interacting with the multiverse.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, I don't think did a decent job, but not like an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird, because they already have a great example with Loki. And I think Loki does the best job of it, because everything is happening everywhere all at once in Loki's example.
Yeah.
because as soon as he comes back, everything's already taken over. You know, like it's instant, and things can happen instantly because of that. Because everything's all taking place.
Yeah,
you know, if you have branches, you don't have to wait for time to pass. It's just there.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, the TVA, you know, operates in a time bubble of its own existence, right?
TVA is kind of like
it's not. Oh, it doesn't exist in the timeline itself.
It's like omnipotent. They have to be some like they like see time on a piece of paper and can rewrite it, rewrite universes as they see.
Have you guys ever seen?
True, but then Kang still had to have been quote unquote created in his timeline.
Yeah.
To then go and make the TVA. I mean, like there's still time that happens.
I think that's just a paradox, though, that you can't really think about too much because but
I don't think it's a paradox because I think how Loki's portraying it is everything's just happening at once, and if you have moments that the TVA only existed and functioned because they were actively watching for things happening all at the same time. Branches are happening all the time. They have to prune things all the time.
Yeah.
Because anywhere on the timeline, this can happen. Because you're looking at the time all at once.
I mean, but if that's true, then Kang should never lose rule because he'll be able to see anything coming ever, and he'll never be able to be defeated unless another omnipotent being comes into the play. But at that point,
well, I mean, there was the first time. Apparently, there was a first time when this happened, you know, and that's when the current timekeeper beat him and instituted law, but then they, and that's when the TVA was created. So it's very weird, and I guess it's really up to interpretation.
Yeah, I think
a lot of people.
I don't know.
That's just how I'm interpreting it.
I think it does still break, but again, I think this is like a thing where Marvel has to pick and choose their battles because they can't just they could write a book on this. They could write 2 books explaining everything, but people frankly aren't really going to care. I like to get into it because I think it's cool. This is why I like Steins Gate so much because that's another kind of multiverse story. And but it's very self-contained. You start to get into paradoxes, I think, when you get really big like Marvel. Whereas Steins Gate is way more like of a self-contained story. It's one little thing he's trying to do, so you don't run into a lot of those issues.
Did you guys ever watch Steins Gate Zero?
I didn't. No.
We watched the first 3 episodes, I think, together, and then it kind of fell off.
I need to. I should have.
It's really good. Yeah. Honestly, I've seen all of the Steins Gate things, so the couple seasons and then the movie and OVA. Wow. You guys should really watch it. It's really good.
Yeah. That would have been nice to hit before this episode because Steins Gate's my favorite like time travel or multiverse story.
I might start rewatching that actually. Yeah. I finally finished. I finally have time in my hands because I finished Factorio.
There you go. But it did such a good job at not breaking, and it's not only because I feel like with multiverse stories, you'll run into paradoxes no matter what. So you have to make sure whatever rules you set up, you have to be very careful not to break. It's just so hard. It's so hard to write a multiverse story in general. Like you have to keep track if you want to satisfy, I guess, the people like me who like to dig into it and stuff. Yeah,
or in the case of Everything Everywhere All at Once is not give a fuck.
Yeah, and
just make make a good story. And as long as the story is good, you don't have to care about the multiverse.
And that's the whole thing. It's like it embraces the absurdity of it, which is why it works in my opinion. Because yes, of course, the grandpa can turn into a cyborg robot thing because he can.
That was pretty funny.
That was or he somehow got all the parts to make his chair into this automated system and stuff like that. Yeah.
Speaking of old guys in chairs, I don't know why Professor X's chair was this tank-looking thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was kind of weird.
Yeah, wasn't that weird?
The fuck? That's the weird. Yeah, that is. They
haven't
weird.
established 3 established chairs. Why not just use one of those?
Instead of this, essentially. It's like some smart car looking thing.
You can't fit that through the doorway. What the heck?
Yeah, it was like a freaking Lamborghini, but compressed into this wheelchair, bright yellow and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you guys excited though that now we kind of have this confirmed? Okay, the Fantastic Four are now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the X-Men are. Are you guys really excited for that?
I'm chill.
I don't know if they're gonna do anything with it. I mean, yes, Marvel owns them all and is technically because they have the multiverse now, they could just, you
can write whatever you want.
They can write whatever they want. I mean, in this multiverse, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are in the same universe. That's not to say other universes are just like on their own.
Yeah.
Like what they already are.
What does that, how does that make you guys feel? Because one of the issues that's hard for me is like when you do have a multiverse, you can kind of just write anything in because you can't really fault it. It's like, well, it exists because it does. Like you can't say it doesn't exist.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is because Marvel is like, okay, we've run out of ideas, so we got to make a multiverse so we can have infinite ideas. Essentially,
do you think? I mean, I don't know. Like, do you think that's lazy? I guess I've heard both sides. Some people are like, it's kind of lazy.
It really depends on execution.
Yeah, agreed.
Like to me, it has to feel like they planned it out far enough in advance, and not just winging it.
I think they did. I think they. Again, we talked about this at the very start of this, where Marvel did an excellent job setting up the idea of a multiverse in the cultural, in pop culture in general, right? Mm-hmm. They did it with the comics way back in the day, but now with like the movies, they started like pushing that idea a little bit more, with like the spatial dimension stuff, even starting in the first Avengers, and then to like, obviously Loki is the start of it, right?
Yeah.
And moving forward, I think they did a good job there.
Yeah.
I think the Spider-Man with Miles Morales would have been the first.
Are you talking about Into the Spider-Verse? But that's a Sony movie, technically, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was technically.
Because they still own Spider-Man. I mean, that's why.
It was like a joint ownership for Marvel.
Yeah, that's why No Way Home ended the way it did, where they forget everything, because that way it allows Sony to do whatever the fuck they want with the Spider-Man character.
I wish Marvel would just buy him. I mean, like how much it could. They could buy him at this point. Disney can buy Spider-Man. Come on.
Yeah, Disney could buy Sony probably.
You're probably right.
Although I think at that point it would become like a hit that monopoly standpoint.
Yeah, they get
just
stopped.
Buy Spider-Man. Like they could do so much more with Spider-Man than Sony ever could.
I know. It's kind of annoying how like these politics get in the way of some of this stuff sometimes. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason like Robert Downey Jr. left, right? Like, there is no other Iron Man. It's the same thing with Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think Robert Downey Jr. left because he's been doing it forever, and he's like, what? I'm kind of done with this.
But exactly, right? It's like, because the actor's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And like, I can't do this, right? Same thing with Hugh Jackman, right? He's like, all right, it's time to...
he's also getting old.
Yeah.
Like, Robert Downey Jr. is not old. Hugh Jackman's getting old.
Yeah. It's just, you can't...
Now... What did you think about Charlize Theron? I don't know what character she plays.
Who's this person?
Is this the purple lady?
The purple lady at the end, the end credit scene.
I don't know.
So Doctor Strange gets the eyeball, and then he's like...
Oh, yeah, wasn't she an Eternal?
I have no idea.
Is she?
She looked like she was dressed like an Eternal.
I thought she was supposed to be... I thought she was in the comics, but I don't want to say who she is, because I don't know if it's going to spoil it. Because her name is...
I kind of want to do... if you don't mind, I'm going to do a quick Google search on this.
I don't want to know. Don't tell me.
Yeah. I think, it's established.
I thought she was an Eternal. She was dressed exactly like an Eternal, but why she opened a portal to the dark universe, I don't know. So that might mean she's not an Eternal, but it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
He started an incursion, because that's what the Eternals called it, I'm pretty sure.
They called it incursions? That's how they were...
Pretty sure.
That's what they were saying in Multiverse of Madness, too. They're like, you've started an incursion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they were called in the Internals.
I don't know. I did not watch Internals.
I was
kind of like...
Oh, am I the only one that did? Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because they fought like these multidimensional beings that...
Yeah, it was very math.
I did incursions into it. It was very similar in a way. I don't know. They actually have not acknowledged Eternals at all in the other Marvel movies. So
that is kind of weird, right? Probably because it didn't do too well at the box office, so they're like, let's just let this...
Because there's a pretty major thing that happens in that movie that affects the Earth, So
there is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we can do spoilers on this. Spoilers for Eternals, right? It's the whole, like...
Celestial.
It's like
Celestial in Earth.
It literally rises out of the Earth, right?
And then they're like, we're not going to let it kill Earth, right? They take
it turns
it down.
into marble.
They just put it to sleep or something. I don't know. Like, but like literally half of its face is out of the middle of the Pacific Ocean or something like that.
Okay.
That's a real big thing,
Yeah.
So
that's going to displace a lot of water.
Yeah, or like its hand is sticking out somewhere. I don't know. Like
they got to be important.
It's pretty acknowledgeable, you know, like you can't avoid that.
They got to be important for like the Marvel universe. I mean, they're definitely going to be somehow very heavily involved, I imagine.
Well, Celestials are what like create planets essentially.
Yeah.
Like a death of one planet, you need people to die on a planet to form a Celestial, which then goes out and creates galaxies. So like that's kind of how
you got like Galactus and like the crazy Celestials. I mean, it wasn't Ego a Celestial too, like where
he was not a Celestial by Celestial standards. Like the Celestials in Eternal, you're like, oh heck yeah, those are Celestials. Like Ego's like whatever he is. He's like a weird virus thing that called himself Celestial. It's kind of weird, or at least that's what it must be. Because if you watch Eternals, there's clearly a dividing line or
well,
a
because they're gigantic, like humanoid, like bipedal type people, right?
That all have like the 6-eye looking things.
Yeah,
so, which Ego did not have. So I don't know what he was, but similar, semi-similar power set, but not the same.
Like a giant Rolk. Anyone who plays Destiny will get that reference, but
none of
Destiny
us do.
gamers.
Exactly. Destiny gamers rise up.
Yeah.
But
there are dozens of us. Literally dozens.
Actually, there's like millions.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
I don't know. There is. It's it's really weird. I'm trepidatious about how the later Marvel movies will evolve, because I feel like the whole Infinity Saga was such a moment in time.
Such a good encapsulation.
And I don't feel like they've measured up to that moment.
Yeah.
yet.
I just worry that they're going to lean on the multiverse too much.
That's what I worry about too. They'll kind of just like, things will start, they'll start breaking kind of their own rules, as we were talking about. I worry that's going to be a little bit of an issue later on. I hope I get proved wrong, to be honest. I hope they like really wrap it up well, but I don't know.
Well, another thing is like, what they're going to pick and choose to incorporate, because so far every Marvel work has been in the same universe, like it all kind of works or is canon, but there's but what if now is kind of an outlier, because there are things that happen in What If that I don't know if they can reconcile with other things they've already done. Like the last 2 episodes of What If are like the finale of the series.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the title, did you watch them all, Colton? Or
I've got a synopsis, and I know the general story of what happens.
Yeah. So like the last 2 episodes is What If Ultron won?
Yeah.
Back when Avengers Ultron was going on.
Yeah, because he starts...
Ultron gets the Infinity Gauntlet and starts taking over all of the multiverse.
See, this is why the TVA was created, so they couldn't do that.
Yeah, so like, and then you have the Watcher, and the Watcher is the closest to a god.
It's like
you haven't in Marvel.
Who is? I don't even know who. He's an omnipotent being, right? Like he's kind of outside. He's like outside.
I love also. You should watch them all, Colton. But I love throughout the episodes how he progressively gets like you see him more and more, like
really?
just like in a mirror or in like the sky or something. Like
interesting.
I love that.
Well, isn't that cool. Kind of it alludes to him being more and more involved in the universe
actually
itself.
Involving in himself.
Yeah,
I must never interfere.
Yeah, even though he's not supposed to.
The Watcher.
He's supposed
to. But
then
when Ultron starts taking over the universe, he's like, "Well, what am I going to watch?" If Ultron takes it over.
Yeah,
Sean, that's you after you die. You're just gonna watch stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to be the Watcher.
Oh, dude. Okay, going back to that episode of the things we do if we were like, I don't know, watching the world after we die. If you could travel universes, that would be cool too. If that was the thing, that would be really fun.
Literally, that pulls in all of us, because my thing was like always like, all right, the parallel processing. And you are like, all right, essentially reincarnate, find your alternate self.
Yep, and then optimize
in another universe.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's that I just don't know how we're going to reconcile it. Is really the issue.
Yeah.
With if that what if thing, because someone's taking over the multiverse.
Yeah.
You know?
That has to be like time. After the TVA, or after the
they could
Kang
retcon
died.
it and say like during when they killed the Time Lord, time whatever.
That's when Ultron was able to do that.
That happened, and Doctor Who. That's when Doctor Who comes in.
Yeah.
And they could say, all right, Doctor Strange and the Watcher thing, Ultron, that all takes place during the brief time when there's no TVA, and now there's a TVA again.
But the TVA,
we're gonna have less multiverse things because there's now a timeline again.
Yeah.
If that's con policy, we'll see.
I have no idea. They can kind of just do whatever the heck they want, like, and then explain it later. They kind of have that power, so we'll have to just see.
Yeah, and that's where it goes back to the execution of what they do. They can make up things and be kind of crazy as long as they have a good, plausible explanation later.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, sure. It's not meant to be.
It just needs to be plausible and like fit more or less within existing rules.
Yeah,
or they make a rule and stick to it. If they do that, I don't care what they do.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with. Like, it's. I'm not looking to like get in here and be like, well, this one time this thing happened, but technically, wow, like that breaks this one thing that this one guy said. Yeah, it's not really meant. You're not meant to enjoy the series with that kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, I have a slightly different opinion. I think I'm like, sometimes I'll get on them about continuity, but not super seriously. For me, it's like I want the directors to have fun. As long as the directors and they create a movie that will have fun, increase audience engagement, and just be an enjoyable time, I'm 100% cool with Marvel doing whatever the fuck they want. Because honestly, they do an excellent job at that from the big start.
But I like
their writing team is on point. They have always bring in great directors, even like indie directors or people who are like kind of unknown. They'll pull them in and they'll make an amazing Marvel movie.
Yeah. But the problem though is you're working with a base of characters and established material. You can have those directors direct any type of movie, but if you're working with Iron Man has rules,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You can't just take Iron Man and put him in a willy-nilly movie. Like, you can't, do anything. Now, if you introduce new characters, that's your opportunity to do new things. But if you're working with established canon, you have to be very careful. It's the reason why so many people don't like the new Star Wars movies. Because you have established canon, and then all of a sudden, you have
crazy
7 brand new powers.
But they're
never
also
existed before.
The Star Wars movies are just not well made, mostly from the beginning.
I disagree, but this is far from my point that I'm trying to make. My point that I'm trying to make is they had an established canon, and they destroyed
it. They
just made up new canon.
It.
They just made up new canon, and that angers the fan base.
Yeah.
It's not hard to stick within established rules, and if you have new characters, you can have new rules. But if you have existing characters or existing powers, you got to keep within the same rules.
Yeah,
and I think that's what Marvel needs to do.
Yeah, I hope they do it. I have faith, but then I also have this burning. I don't know. They can do anything they want, so hopefully.
What were you gonna say, Colton? You're gonna say something that they have this burning.
I don't even know.
Worry.
I think Marvel, in my opinion, like I'm not a huge fan of the Marvel universe. I feel like this episode makes me sound like I am actually a Marvel nut with all the research I did.
Let me pull you back here, though. I hate Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel's mid. I just want to make that clear. Marvel's so mid. No, I'm not a huge fan. I probably wouldn't have seen the movie unless I wanted to do this topic. I'm glad I did see the movie, but I'm just not. Yeah. I don't care too much for it. For other reasons, I'm not super attracted to the franchise. But I don't even know what was my point. Marvel's like okay to me, I guess. I hope it does well because like I think there's a lot of potential, and like with this movie, it was like so unique. It's like, oh my gosh, like I want more movies like this. And Marvel has the budget to create more movies, like different, unique superhero movies that have a lot of creativity. I hope they keep going down that route, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you guys cool, done with that topic? Have we closed it out?
Yeah. So I think the synopsis is make sure to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing.
Watch that movie.
And,
it's the better movie.
Multiverse of Madness. It's cool.
Multiverse of Madness is cool.
It's mid.
Have you decided which one you like better, Sean? Can you
No,
decide?
I think they're both 8s to me. I don't really have a solid yes or the other. What I was going to say though is going back to my need for quality,
I need quality
really,
franchises
that we all know.
Really just quality,
Quality content.
I got into the movie theater for Doctor Strange, and I'm like, why is the screen a little blurry? This just doesn't.
Oh no!
This just isn't what I expect, and maybe because I wouldn't see it in IMAX. I saw it in I thought I did see it in IMAX. Whatever the premiere theater at my theater was. But I get in that thing and I'm like, this just looks a little too low.
Low
I know,
res.
The problem
480p.
is I know that my screen at home would be clearer.
Well, is it because it's smaller, so your density of pixels is just better?
Technically, yes, but a theater has way higher density level or pixel density. They project 8K or higher. So
okay.
But the problem is it's so big. So it's pixel density. And
this is the same.
It's such a problem for me.
This is the same issue that Carla and I have, because we're to the point now where we have really good popcorn that we love. We have all the alcohol we want to drink. We have candy we can get at the gas station for cheaper, and then our TV is amazing. It's why do we even go to the theater? We have
honestly the only thing that's preventing me from just not going to the theater anymore is my sound system. If I can get a good sound system, I have no need to go to the theater anymore.
Oh, man.
I need it. But the thing is, I need at least a 7.1 surround sound system.
Oh, how much does that run you?
Yeah, which you're going to drop at least a couple K on.
A couple K?
Eventually, yeah. Good. More than a couple, probably.
That's true. I mean, I'm getting there, too. I'll get there one day, probably. I want a home theater.
I have a 5.1 surround sound right now at an affordable level.
Yeah.
But I know it's not great in terms of quality I can't achieve. So I need a better one.
You need even higher quality.
Yeah,
I don't know. Home theater sounds a bit much though, Colton. I don't know.
Home theater would be so cool. I mean, look, would I invest 20K, 10K into a home theater? I don't know. But we're getting those projectors. Yes. Those projectors are getting really good. So get that surround sound system. Get that projector. Get the your chairs. You're good to go. You're in a stellar position.
Some folding chairs.
The chairs aren't cheap either. Have you ever looked up the home theater system chairs?
Well,
what are home theater system chairs?
Have you ever been in a home theater? Either of you guys? Have you ever had a home with a home theater?
What does that mean?
Have you been in a house that has a 10-person theater room?
I've not. No.
I've been to a place that has my dad had a media room back when I was younger, but not a true home theater system where you've got the special theater style chairs and everything.
I've stayed in I think an Airbnb or a friend's house with my parents where they had a 20-person home theater. Literally, you got in. It looks like a small movie theater. My dad knows people, but you get in there and it's like a movie theater just for 20 people, and you have the projector and they got a really good sound system. Yeah, that sounds really expensive now that I'm talking through it. I would just
prefer couches over the theater.
Absolutely, because you can lay down.
But yeah, it's expensive. But yeah, it's worth it to me.
The quality man, Sean.
I would spend at least if I factor in TV, probably 10 to 15,000.
You would spend that much?
Really?
Yeah.
So you spend $2,000 on the TV.
Probably 3 to 4.
3 to 4 on the. What else are you spending on? You're spending $3,000 on a sound system.
Mm-hmm.
Then what else?
Yeah, probably more than that. Probably about $5K on a sound system.
And then $2K or $3K on a nice sofa with multiple recliner seats and stuff like that, a sectional.
Yeah, probably. And then there's going to be money spent on soundproofing the room, painting and things like that. But yeah.
Oh gosh.
Because if you want a good home theater experience, you got to paint the walls black, dark black.
That's true. You do need that.
Yeah, was that the what's the one black that's like
Vanta black?
Vanta, the one that literally absorbs light.
Absorbs 99.8% light.
You literally can't have it out in the sun because it'll start melting.
It just too much absorbs that.
I don't know if I could do that one. I wouldn't do that black, but black. Like it needs to be dark
and no windows.
So the only light produced in the thing, or the only light that's reflected, is from the TV or the projector.
And dimmable, like a dimmable switch, so you can dim down the lights.
And that's just how much I care about having a quality entertainment system, and that's not for everybody, nor should it be for everybody because it draws too much power.
Yeah. My own generator.
And no way I could purchase that in this point in my life.
Right.
But in 20 years, sure.
Man.
So
one day you'll get it.
As long as you're not living in California.
Well, who knows?
If you live in California, you could probably only afford a.
I can only afford a 5K.
When you're in California, it's like all relative because your house is $1 million. It's like, what's $10K on a freaking home theater setup at that point?
Yeah,
I just need to rent out one of my rooms for like $2,000 a month.
Exactly.
And I have the thing in a year.
That's great. That's great. Just get into real estate. That's what we all should do.
California real estate, God.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like
hard to get into.
Fantastic. Is that actually? I don't know. That's a topic for another day. I'm not going to bring up. Can I get into real estate? Is that a thing I can do?
We can have we'll have the investment episode.
I'd much rather get into Japanese real estate.
that would be interesting.
That would just be a fighting match at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Because we have very different styles.
Probably.
But that's a topic for another day. We also have to preface that with we are not financial experts in any way, shape, or form. So
I will preface this with I am a perfect movie critic. I am completely, my opinion is objective and everyone will agree. So if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong.
That's a very based opinion there.
Very based. I think, where's your source for that?
The sources I made it the fuck up.
That I made it the fuck up. Metal Gear.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Metal Gear Revengeance. That meme is.
I don't know where that meme came from. I don't understand that.
It's Maxor.
I mean, that's the real. It's like it's not the real dialogue. But it's about a game.
It's from Maxor.
Yeah.
Is it the guy fighting the lawyer, right?
He's a congressman. But yeah,
he's senator.
But what is that? I don't understand any sort of context for this meme. Like,
all right,
did you not watch the Maxor video I sent you of him just redubbing that entire thing? Because that was absolutely 11 out of 10 brilliant.
Insane.
I watched a little bit of it, but again, I don't understand the context for the meme, so it doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know if there is context.
You don't need to understand context.
The game is insane.
I feel like I do because I'm too confused watching it to be funny.
I think it spurred from like the punching. Him punching the senator.
But what game is it from? I don't even know anything.
It's from Metal Gear Solid Rising: Revengeance. It's just
what happened to Metal Gear Solid? I thought that was a spy game.
This is what everyone asked when this game came out. It's like, what is going on? It's literally like the game's a meme. The guy, there was a boss in there that before you fight him, he's like, we're all just memes. It's like, that's the consciousness, memes. And it's like just the whole game is a meme. So I
feel like someone was smoking everything watching making that game.
Like, yeah, it's like the mother of all omelets is a real quote. I mean, the senator punches you.
What? We're making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. We can't fret over
every egg. Yeah. There's one point where the senator punches you and like there's cheering in the background, but it was just like edited in for like the meme.
And it literally it's okay, saucy Jack. Like that's literally a line. It's saucy Jack.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is just pure to me, like pure Zoomer humor.
Oh, absolutely!
I feel a bit too old for it.
That's why this game is like transcended time. It came out like 10 years ago.
Literally
came out for the PS3.
We're mill Zoomers, right? Because we fall in that perfect line. Like
I think we're right between
97 baby
Zoomers.
Yeah. So like right in that line between them. Because like I'll still like use GIFs in like text and group chats, which I feel like is like. Zoomers just don't do. That's a very millennial thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That means
I think it's very millennial.
I'm already getting too old. I don't know.
That means you're a millennial. Are we really?
But there's a lot of Zoomer things I do find funny.
Oh, absolutely.
What Zoomer things?
All the internet humor,
but not everything.
I mean, TikTok itself is like a whole thing where I'm like, I don't know if I find this funny.
I don't want
Zoomers. All Zoomers immediately exit out of the tab. They're listening to this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's okay. I don't think we cater to Zoomers.
Yeah. I only cater to my millennial fan base. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, we cater to that group of people who fall right in between.
Yeah,
where we're stuck in between two generations.
We're
and we're
almost
like, well, fuck.
millennials. We're almost Zoomers. We're almost both of them.
Yeah.
In short, I don't find that meme funny.
I think
it does not jive.
I think it's absolutely hilarious.
I think we need to just show it to you while we're there, so we can explain while we watch it together.
Yep.
Because that always makes it funnier when you explain the joke.
Yeah. So Armstrong is like...
That's boomer to do. Yeah. No, you didn't get it. Let me explain the joke to you.
Yeah, so Armstrong is calling Jack sussy because of this, and then he's also referring to him as the egg.
Because
But now I need to explain sussy to you.
Yeah.
The sus. Okay, that's one thing. The sus, that was like absolutely different. So... we should explain that. So sus in our friend group had a completely different meaning than it originally, like the pop culture meaning.
Yeah,
that's just called an inside joke.
Well, yeah, we had it. We basically had an inside.
It was an inside joke before it was cool.
We had an inside joke. Exactly like we were calling shit sus before Among Us came out, and then
oh, that's true.
Yeah, because we were like, that's sus, and it wasn't like suspicious, like the actual term is, but most people see it as. But it was more like that's not like ridiculous, but like maybe like unacceptable or like in a comedic way.
We just used it in whatever the fuck way we wanted to. You just threw sus in there like you used the word
sus
fuck. Like it's an adjective.
Sus was derived from the YouTube poop humor.
Yeah, exactly.
That stuff's funny though. Yeah. That's Zoomer humor, but I think it's funny.
Yeah, it absolutely is Zoomer humor.
Yeah, the YouTube poop community. And then because they'd say, I don't know why, it was like supposed to mean sauce, but sometimes you could only get sus out of it. So then it was like funny.
I know exactly which one it's from. It's from the one about Moana or whatever.
That's a big one.
Like
Yep. SpongeBob ones in the early days of YouTube poop also did that. You'd have Mr. Krabs sing like SpongeBob, but you could sometimes, I think, get that to sus or something. Maybe not.
I have not seen as many of these as you guys have. I don't think
it's a whole thing. It's a whole community, guys. It's great.
It is the sus community.
Well, but my dudes, we're in another multiverse. We may continue, but in this multiverse, we will be ending the podcast today.
Wow, that was a good ending.
Yeah, thank you for taking this multi-universal journey on how everything everywhere all at once is awesome and how Marvel is mid. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to trigger Sean. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I prepared a lot for it. I watched a lot of Marvel stuff. To get there.
It was really cool getting to because I had seen everything except the 2 new movies.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a fun project.
Watch them back to back.
Yeah, it was a really fun project. So we'll have more fun topics like this in the future. But if you like this episode, please like our podcast. Please subscribe. Please follow. Give us a comment on YouTube. We love your comments and we love interacting with you guys. So tell us what your theories on the multiverse are. Tell us why you think Marvel is mid. Tell us why you think Thanos should be, I don't know, like an Avenger in another universe.
Thanos is right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a meme, right?
That's anything Thanos is a meme. We stream on Wednesdays
Torking
or Thursdays,
Thanos.
So please watch our streams if you like. We play a lot of fun games, and we're awesome.
Yep.
We die a lot.
Yes,
you will see our
we
progression.
die a lot.
You'll see our progression from casual gamers to professional gamers. So we're getting there. We'll get there one day. Yeah, that's the podcast. Have a great rest of your days or nights. And yeah, see you guys. That was almost a podcast.
Bye.
Goodbye.